Back. If you saw my video where I visited Smithfield Market at the early hours of the morning to grab some beef, this is basically what I come home with. A 3-bone aged rib of beef, and we're gonna do a little bit of amateur butchery today. So I've dabbled with a little bit of amateur butchery across the years, and it's fun. It shows you where your meat comes from, and ultimately it's quite satisfying to see where the cuts come from that animal. You don't have to spend loads on equipment. I've literally got some butchery knives, Starrett butchery knives. They were probably £10–15 each. The only thing I did invest in that was worth the money was a good quality bone saw, and that is for getting through the bone part of the beef. So this has been aged by Stevie at Longcroft and Old. To start the butchery process, what we need to do is take away this aged part of the beef, which ultimately is the part that's decayed. So it's been aging away in a massive fridge. It basically will start to decompose the meat. It will start to break down the muscle fibers, making the meat more tender, giving it a nice gamey kind of taste. So the first thing we need to do is just take off the face of that aged part of the beef, which we'll do now with a nice sharp knife.
Here we go. We're starting off by taking off the face of the beef. This is the part that is aged. So that bit there is basically the decayed part of the meat. So when you age beef, all you're doing is allowing it to kind of decay from the outside in. So you lose a little bit of the yield from the beef. That's why aged beef is more expensive than unaged beef. Loads of people say to me, oh, this is the best bit. I always eat that bit. But basically, like, that's the bit with all the germs on it. So I never eat it. I roast it down for like beef tallow, things like that. Now all I'm going to do is cut these into fairly good size steaks, mainly because it's easier to get the bone off a bigger piece of meat. So what we're doing now is just going through that bone that basically is the T-bone section of the steak.
Look at that, beautiful, properly aged. You can see all the fat running through it, all marbled, wow. Effectively, a sirloin on the bone. We've got a tiny little bit of the fillet there, but not enough to cook or kind of really note as a proper T-bone steak. This is just a bone-in sirloin, and we've left the bone on. If you want to, you can always take that bone out now, or as it is whole. We'll do that as we go along, but ultimately we've got a beautiful, thick, 1.5 inch sirloin steak ready for the barbecue.
I actually nicked that first steak for a little bit of content, so I've come back a little bit later to finish the job off. And again, all we're doing the other side is same what we did. Take off the aged part of the beef that isn't particularly nice to eat. I know some people do, but not for me, thank you.
So that's the aged part of the beef trimmed off the sides or the faces of the beef. And every time I do one of these butchery videos, I always get the comment, oh, don't throw that away, that's the best bit. Well, I never eat it because in my mind, that's the bit that's been decaying away, basically. So I wouldn't want to eat that. But yeah, every time I put a butchery video on, I always get 2 comments. My knife's not sharp enough, and oh, that's the best bit. You do you. I'm sure it might taste amazing, but I don't want to risk it. It's basically the bit of the meat that's been decaying. So effectively is dead. So, or not dead, that's the wrong terminology. Decaying. So it's the bit that's basically got the bacteria on it. So get rid of that. And what we've got now is a beautiful bone-in sirloin. And we're going to cut it into nice big thick steaks. Let's go.
Now I'm going to process these larger steaks into more manageable and usable pieces. So there's a hell of a lot of fat on the outside, which is fine. But when it comes to cooking it, that's going to cause a problem because you're never going to be able to render down that amount of fat. So I'm taking off quite a lot of it, and then what's left I'm scoring with a nice sharp knife. So when I do come to cook this, it will render down quite nicely, and those cross hatchings will allow the salt to kind of penetrate in. And what we're left with is a really good looking steak. Some of these I'm going to keep on the bone. The rest I'm going to take off, but basically it's a case of just cutting down until you hit the bone, and then using the saw in the gouge you've made with the knife to cut through. Loads of fat on the outside, You've got that bone that can be left on or taken off, depending on what you prefer. And there is also a little bit of the kind of cap or the top of the steak that needs trimming, but I'll go into that when I do it. Here we have the last two bits just being sawed in half. So basically all of these pieces now have got the bones still attached. Woo. To remove the bone, I've got a smaller knife, and all you're doing is using the tip of the knife and following the bone down as close as you can to it so you don't start to take away usable meat. When you reach the bottom, it'll be the same thing. It'll be like an L-shape bend, and you have to bend the knife round that kind of L shape of the bone to release the steak from the actual bone. And as you can see, we've not taken hardly any of the meat off the top. That's brilliant. And now we just do a little bit of tidying up around it. So there's a little bit of aged beef still on the top, and we're going to take off that copious amounts of fat. Don't worry, all of this is going to be put to good use. I'm going to render it down and make delicious beef dripping, or tallow, as you Americans like to refer to it as. But yeah, this is a really nice way of learning about how you get your cuts of beef. I've loved doing a little bit of amateur butchery over the years. This video has been supported by Longcroft and Old in Smithfield Market. Stevie is one of the nicest blokes you'll ever meet. Really knows his stuff. Gets all the beef imported from Stoddards in Scotland. And yeah, beautiful beef, really aged nicely. We're just taking off excess fat here. So we've got really nice sirloin steaks. And with this, you can either keep it whole and have a larger steak, or you can attempt to cut it in half and have two kind of like 300 gram steaks. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to whack that in half. So we've got two steaks there. Rather than have one big large one, we've got two smaller ones for our tea. And yeah, we've got enough beef left to do a bit of variety. So we'll keep some on the bone. We'll take some off. We'll just have a little play about. But yeah, look at that beef. Beautiful, marbled, aged beef. This one I wanted to leave on the bone, but I didn't want to leave the kind of the protruding bit. I don't really know what to refer to it as. Didn't want to leave that bit on, so we just take that off with the bone saw, and then yeah, trim down the rest of the fat. Having the bone left on means it will cook more evenly. You get a little bit of bone marrow kind of seeping out into the steak, or so I'm told. I'm yet to believe that, but that's what all the kind of experts say.
So there we have it. Our sirloin on the bone, butchered. I nicked one steak for a little bit of content midway through. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got 6 good sized steaks off of it. I kept some on the bone. I took some off the bone. And then this is all the leftover trim. It's a waste if we just throw it away. So I'm going to use that for something else. It's going to be amazing. If you like these butchery videos, please let me know in the comments. And I'll be doing a video every week. See you soon.